Hello everyone. I'll be talking about Bloom's taxonomy. Let's see what Benjamin Bloom has to say about it. Although I did touch upon it when we were discussing higher order thinking skills, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit in more details. So what he has said is that education must be increasingly conclusive about the fullest development of children and youth, and it will be the responsibility of schools to seek learning conditions which will enable each individual to reach the highest level of learning possible. His entire idea was that the students should be able to learn at a pace at which they are comfortable and also learn to the maximum that they are able to. He recognized that each one was a different student. Every student was a unique individual in his own or her own right, and each one of them needed to be taught in a different way. So he said that we need to have programs in which every student benefits by our educational process. I'm going to be taking it in two parts. I will first talk about the theoretical framework of Bloom's taxonomy, and then we'll move on to how we can apply it in our educational setups. So starting first with the theoretical framework, what exactly is Bloom's taxonomy? It can be understood to be like a toolbox to help us to understand the level of the student's thinking, learning, and understanding. Whether he's understood what we are teaching in class, whether he's able to assimilate it, learn it, use it elsewhere, apply it elsewhere, evaluate the value of what he or she has learned, and finally maybe create something new which is different or be a very creative way of doing things. So if we put it in a very basic manner, it is the map of how we learn or how we think from simple to complex. It is with the help of Bloom's taxonomy, we can make our learning objectives clear. What is it that we plan in our course? What is it that we are planning to give or impart to the students? And what is it that we expect from the students at the end of the course? What should they have reached? What level of understanding and thinking they should have reached by the end of it? So Bloom's taxonomy is a very a powerful tool which helps us to design our courses in the best way, which will impact the students the most. The main focus of Bloom's taxonomy is to develop critical thinking in the students. The idea is to encourage the students to think, to apply the knowledge and skills that they have learned to new contexts. That is, you are learning something maybe in the classroom. So how would you apply those concepts when you're outside the classroom? Are you able to understand in which situation what information is going to be suitable? That is what is important for the student to understand. If we look at the historical background of Bloom's taxonomy, it was created by Benjamin Bloom in 1956, along with four collaborators. They had formulated a hierarchical uh, model for explaining how the student moves from the basic to the complex, the simple to the complex. This model was later revised in 2001 by Lauren Anderson, and this is the model which we most frequently use at present. The model which I will be referring to also will be the revised model. When originally Bloom had started working in this area, he had said that there are three primary domains of understanding. One is the head, which is involved in the thinking process. The other is the hand, which is involved in psychomotor activities. And the third is the heart, which is the emotions and the affect of the individual. So when he talks about the cognitive domain, the head, he talks about thinking. And what do we do when we are thinking? We are memorizing, we are reasoning, we are understanding, applying, evaluating. When we talk of the affective domain, it is the emotions and the feelings that we are referring to, in which comes the aspect of motivation, how much the student is motivated to learn what he or she is being taught. The third one is the psychomotor domain, which is related to actions, to doing, all the playing, all the typing, writing. The most important psychomotor domain activity, which is important for us as teachers, is that it helps in reading readiness of the person and writing, handwriting of the child. So in that sense, psychomotor is an important area. The taxonomy that Bloom has given is based on the cognitive domain alone. But affective domain we cannot leave out, because it not only talks of motivation, but also talks of the attitude of the student towards learning, which we know is very important component of any learning to take place. The student has a positive attitude and the student is motivated to learn what we are talking about. That is what will impact how much the student is going to absorb. So here we can see the head talks about the intellectual abilities of the child, of the student, the comprehending information ability of the student, and the ability to access or gather as much knowledge as possible, and that use that knowledge for later use. The hand is for physical coordination. The important features, like I said earlier, reading readiness and handwriting. The third is the heart, which is related to emotions, feelings, attitude, motivation. So when we look at Bloom's, the three domains that he's talking about, like I had said earlier also, that he has used a hierarchical model. And in this particular picture that I'm showing you, the hierarchical order is from the base upwards. So in the psychomotor, the starts with perception, then you have guided responses, mechanism, complex overt responses, adaptation. All these form part of the psychomotor activities. In cognitive activities, the original model that he had given us, that consisted of knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. But when we look at the revised model, these words have been changed. The affective domain consists of receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and characterizing. So each of these domains is important, but his taxonomy that Bloom has talked about is related primarily to the cognitive aspect. So here are the two models that I was talking about. I said there is one model which is given to us in 1956 by Bloom, and this is the revised model which was given to us by Lauren Anderson. And you can see that there is a certain amount of difference as far as the words are used. This one says knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Here, the knowledge term has been changed to remember. Comprehension has been changed to understand. The other two have remained the same, application and analyze. These two have been interchanged. Bloom said synthesis occurs first and evaluation occurs later on, but the revised model says the evaluation process comes first before we can go on to synthesize or create something which is new. The other aspect which is also there, which I would like to bring your focus to, is that here you can see that all the words are noun. They are the nouns. The knowledge is a noun. Comprehension is a noun. But in the second model, it has changed. It has been changed into the verb form. That is, the knowledge has changed. The noun has changed to the verb of remember. Now this has become an action activity based word. So remember is a verb and knowledge is the noun, comprehension is the noun, and understanding is the verb. That is what the student is doing. When we say comprehension, what is the activity involved in it? It is understanding. Again, application, that is the noun, and what is the verb? What do? We apply. Similarly, analysis, we analyze, and evaluate and create. So the words have changed from noun to verb. That is, Bloom has now focused more on the activity or the action part of the learning process. So now coming to the various aspects that he has referred to, first one is remember. Remember meaning how much the child can absorb, remember, recall later on, comprehend, is come only after the student has been able to remember. So in remember, when we talk of remember, we speak in terms of defining the number series when the child is learning in the junior classes, the sequence of alphabets, all that is part of remember. All the form, as a student grows older in class, then it talks about the formulae, the chemicals involved in the various reactions in chemistry, formulae in maths, all that form parts of remember. The second one is understand. Yes, you understand is definitely a higher category than remember, but you cannot understand or explain a concept unless you remember it, unless you have first sort of put it into your memory. Only then you will be able to recall it and understand and comprehend at a later stage that, okay, this was the concept that I had learned and this is what it means. Then application is another component which is very important. After understanding the entire concept about its significance, then we understand how and where we will apply it. And after the application comes analysis, that you give a weightage to the aspects that you have learned to understand how beneficial it is or it is not. And maybe you would start evaluating it to see whether it is something that I need to keep in my memory or it's something which I can delete, it doesn't require to be there. Finally, with all these steps that we have gone into one by one, we are in a position to evaluate and create something probably new out of it, or maybe find a different way of using or applying something that you have learned earlier. So this is the model that has been given, and this is something that you will find most frequently, that this is the model. It's as I said, it's hierarchical in nature, and that is the reason why it is in the shape of a pyramid. So if we look at each one of them separately, as I was discussing earlier as well, at the level of remember, the student recalls factual information. The understanding is related to comprehension and explaining of those concepts. Apply is the ability to use these concepts in real life situations. Analyze is the ability to break a topic into components and examine the different aspects of it from different perspectives. The synthesizing refers to the ability to bring together different facts and putting them together in a whole and making conclusions, identifying themes, finding common elements, being able to distinguish between certain concepts. Evaluate refers to the ability to make judgments or ideas. Information requires an ability to be able to critique the arguments and be able to understand the positive and the negatives, pros and cons, strengths and shortcomings or limitations of a particular concept. Finally, you create something by putting all that information together. You reorganize the elements that are there into something which is a new pattern. And this sort of involves what we refer to commonly as thinking out of the box. So if we put it all together, we can see that at the lower level are the behaviors of retrieve relevant knowledge. Then comes understanding meaning, execution and implementation, breaking down into parts and detecting relationships, making judgments based on criteria, and making a new product with an entirely original idea that you may have used. So like I was saying that it was, the model has been changed from nouns to verbs, and this has actually helped us a lot because these words, they give us the stems for the various questions that we can formulate for the student to know what is the level at which the student is. So when we are talking of remember, we want to ask questions about remember. We ask the student to describe or to relate or define. So these kind of things would probably form the stem of our questions related to remember. Then those questions which we want to find out whether the student has able to understand what has been taught in the class, then we talk about the questions can start with explain the theory of, or compare x with y, or predict what will happen if x plus y is equal to what, and x square plus y square is equal to. So that is the persons that will give us an understanding of how much the student has really comprehended about the material that has been imparted to him or her. The third, when we are wanting to know whether the student is able to apply that information, has he been able to gather the information enough to understand how it would be applied in other places, there the questions would probably say, oh, examine or illustrate with the help of an example. So those are the kind of questions we'll formulate. And when we are talking about whether the student has been able to comprehend to the level of analysis, then we ask questions like uh, uh, contrast or compare between two variables. Then when we are talking about the evaluate level of the students understanding, then we talk about justify or prioritize or recommend or choose. And then and create, of course, is the where we would expect student to design something, or even when we are planning to design a course, then it would quite a lot of creativity would be used in it, because we have to formulate certain objectives. We want to know what the student is going to learn and how we are going to assess at the end of it. So now we will come to the second aspect, that is the applications. And let's see how and where we can apply the information that we have just received about Bloom's taxonomy. So these are the various ways in which Bloom's taxonomy can be used in a classroom setting. When we talk of remember, then we expect the student to retrieve information from memory, but we do not expect the student to change it in any way. So when we are expecting the student to give a definition, we expect the student to give it verbatim as it is given, not change it into his or her own style of giving that definition. So when we say define, we expect the student to give the exact same definition as has been given in the material that he or she may have gone through. And when we are assessing, then we give student multiple choice questions and ask them to recognize which out of these is the correct answer. And also sometimes when we ask them to fill in the blanks, there also we are asking them to retrieve information, but we are not expecting them to make too much of complex thinking involved. They just remember and recall and respond on the basis of what they have sort of through rote learning they have learned. The second aspect is to understand, where the students are expected to build connections in their minds to be able to understand the concepts. The definition is not just merely a definition. What does that definition actually mean? So what are the important points in that particular definition, and what exactly makes this a complete understanding of the concept that they have just understood? So when we are assessing them, we give them, say the example that they have given over here is that they give an example of a fictitious animal, and they give the conditions under which he or she will survive. So the students need to explain why that fictitious animal would or would not be able to survive in a particular ecosystem. So this has become now a little bit more complex than just remembering. So the student is moving from learning and understanding about the various ecosystems, and also now he is able to understand application of that knowledge. So when we are talking about remember, we give questions like define, who gave the theory of, or what is the formula for calculating circumference of a circle, enumerate the information processing theories of intelligence, what are the stages of development given by Piaget. So it's a direct reproduction of what has been learned. There is nothing complex about this. In understanding, we ask questions like, what is the difference between X and Y? Can you distinguish between, give an example of, or explain the main features of? So this is a little bit more than just remembering. This is also seeing what are the important components of whatever they have remembered. The third aspect is apply. Here, you expect that the student would be able to answer some new problems which are based on what they have learned in the previous two sections. So say, for example, they have learned about Newton's 3 laws. So the student is given the example of a car crash, and there they are supposed to say which law, if any, is Newton's, out of the 3 laws are there, which are there, which one would be applied over here in this situation of accident. The fourth one is analyze. So here you are going into a slightly higher level. So if you remember in the last video that I had talked about the various higher order thinking skills. So we had talked about the remembering and understanding being the lower order, and the apply, analyze, evaluate, and create are the higher level thinking skills. So now from just merely remembering and understanding, the student has moved into application and analyzing the information that the student is getting, how it can be used where all, and what are the key elements of that particular information that has just been received by them. So when we are questioning the student about the section of apply, then you ask questions like, okay, this is a particular theory. Where do you think this will be applicable? Like the example that they had given in the picture was that about Newton's law, how it is applicable in an accident. So, or you ask, okay, this is something, you're explaining something, and you ask the student, have you ever experienced this? Have you come across this in your life sometime? Or you can ask questions like, how could this have been done differently? So that means that they're applying the information that they have received to be able to answer these kind of questions. Little bit more thinking has to be done, not just a reproduction of whatever they have memorized. Then another type of question that we can ask is illustrate with the help of an example. For analyze, we say difference between summative and formative assessment techniques. Then examine the given theory given by XYZ and give its strengths and limitations. Differentiate between. These all have the student really has to be able to understand the concept, be able to analyze what are the aspects which are positive or negative. Like we said earlier also, that the student should be able to critique whatever he or she is learning. Then the last ones are evaluate and create. The evaluate talks about the sources of information are examined and the quality is assessed. Decisions are made on the basis of some criteria that, okay, this is, say for example, there are 4 or 5 kinds of theories or 4 or 5 kinds of definitions that have been given for a particular concept, and the student is asked which out of these you think is defines this concept the best. So that is where the student would have to turn to evaluating. The student will have to use a little bit more of his thinking to be able to say which out of this various things that have been presented to him or her which of these is best and why. So if you're saying that this particular definition is the best out of the 5 definitions that have been given, so why do you consider this to be the best one? So there, the student has to take the information about the definition is coming from remembering, and it is coming from understanding. But here we are using the higher order skills to evaluate that particular theory or the particular definition that we had learned earlier. So like why I'm saying this is that I would like to emphasize that the lower order skills also, or the remembering and understanding, are important because they are the foundations. Like a building has to have a foundation to grow into various stories, first, second, third story. Similarly, the student also needs that grounding in remembering and understanding to be able to move to the higher order skills and to the higher level of cognitive ability. So it is important, the first 2 levels are also important for the individual to be able to reach the level of evaluate. So the student can only evaluate if he remembers those definitions. If he doesn't remember them or he doesn't understand them, he is not going to be able to evaluate them appropriately. The last one is the creativity. That is, you use your creativity to develop something which is totally new, either the product or the thought or the idea, how it is presented. All these are totally new way of doing the same thing. So in assessment, when you are talking about assessment, then you when you are assessing for creativity, then you can do things like brainstorming for finding solutions to something that is not being able to be worked upon, or design something which is very different, which is going to give you a normal a novel experience of having been able to achieve something. So when you are asking questions related to evaluate, then you will ask questions like, identify 3 strong points for the proposal. Do you think it was okay for X to steal medicine to save his dying wife, and why? So when you put the question of why over there, then it becomes open-ended. It gives a full freedom to the person who is responding to be able to respond in any which way he likes. So when you ask a simple, straightforward question, do you think it was okay for X to steal medicine to save his dying life? You can answer it in either yes or no, depending how you feel about the thing. But when you are asked the question why, then it has sort of qualified this question. You have given an open-ended option to the student to think about why I think it is correct or why I think it is not correct. And when he responds, then he has evaluated the situation and then given the response. Then, like, how would you have responded to the questions which was given asked to you by the policeman? How could you have said the same thing differently so that it would not have sounded rude? So these are the different ways in which the person or the student is encouraged to think at a higher level. So, and the 6th level is to create. That is, as a teacher, if you would like to create a new course or add-on course in your department, and you think that this is an important course that the students would benefit by, so you would formulate or create a new program in which you would use a lot of your thinking acumen to be able to formulate the objectives, what you plan to achieve by the end of the course, what is going to be the content of your course, how would you assess the students at the end, would that assessment serve the purpose that you have in mind? All these things would be part of the creative process. Or like the other example I've given over here is design an intervention for dealing with an adolescent having the problem of alcohol dependence. So how would you deal with a student, with an adolescent who is having this problem? What are the things you will keep in mind without antagonizing the student, whether the adolescent, without making the adolescent go on a guilt trip or being defensive? The student feels, or the adolescent feels, that you are actually helping him out and you're not criticizing or putting him down. So how would you do it? It would require a lot of creativity and ingenuity. So when we are using Bloom's taxonomy, which are the various areas where it can be beneficial for us if we use this, we keep this as our background. When we map any new curriculum, we construct and improve any assessment methods that we have. We also, when we were talking about uh, the various ways in which you can help the student to learn, the different types of methods of teaching which will help the student to learn. And we also recognize that the students are all different, and we talked of the concepts of blended learning, how we can take a judicious mix of on and offline teaching so that the students are able to learn at a more personal level, at their pace, at the way in which they can understand what they are learning right now. So encouraging autonomy is another aspect which is a very important offshoot of Bloom's taxonomy. They basically, you make the learner aware as to what exactly are the cognitive demands of the work that he or she is being doing right now, and whether he or she has been able to reach that cognitive level for which the entire program has been the focus of. Then you encourage or support metacognition in students, help the students to recognize where they are and where they want to reach, and what is the gap and how I can reach there. Then there, of course, when you encourage a metacognition, you're making the student more independent in his learning process and less dependent on teacher or teacher guided learning, and they are able to understand how much I want to learn and from where can I get that information. Then you give the learning, when you give the learning feedback to the student, you can formulate your response in the way to, so that the student is able to understand which level of Bloom's taxonomy is he presently functioning at. Is he at the remembering and understanding level, or he has been able to move upwards to analyze, evaluate, and create? So is the students, where is the student as far as the Bloom's taxonomy is concerned? Is the student making the progress from one step to the next, or the student has got stuck in a one particular groove and is not taking any, there is no motivation to move forward? So there, when you give a feedback which is very constructive in nature and helps the student understand where exactly the problem is, the student also gets motivated to learn further. Then naturally, this feedback that you're giving to the student will help, this particular feedback that you're giving to the student will help the student to track their progress, to see where they are at present and where they would like to reach. Then and when you know that the student who is at a higher level of functioning cognitively, if you leave the same tasks to the persons with different abilities, they will probably lose interest in what is being discussed in the class. So it's important that you give them some extra work in the form of projects, or some work in which they have to look for more material than what is being provided in the class. So those students will become more motivated to learn if they keep following the rest of the class, and you are teaching somewhere in the middle where you are catering to the lower and the upper understanding students. there the student will probably lose interest, get bored, and stop paying any attention. So when you are able to understand that each student is at a different level, so and we personalize the teaching in a way that it taps everybody's level of understanding, that is the time when all students would be encouraged to be part of the class, and they will be more engaged in your teaching process. And naturally, when you are giving them extra work, giving them projects to do, asking them to do work online to gather material from there, you are sort of giving a challenge to these learners who are at a higher level of learning. And the Bloom's taxonomy, like I already gave examples in the previous slides, that the verbs that are associated with each level gives you the stems to create questions. You can ask the, when you are making a quiz or a question paper for the students to answer at the end of the year, of the end of the semester, you can create questions which will tap all of these 6 aspects of Bloom's taxonomy. So there will be students who will be able to answer the remembering, understanding, and analyzing questions better, and there will be some students who will be able to understand and answer better the questions of evaluating, and those which are requiring some kind of thinking and creativity. And yes, it describes the skill competence of the student at that point of time. So when we are planning a lesson, we need to remember what are the components that we want to include, and the Bloom's taxonomy is a very, very powerful tool that we have, which will help us to realize what are the different components that we need to put into our lesson in a way so that all the students in the class are engaged. When we answer these questions of who am I teaching, what am I teaching, how will I be teaching this topic, and how will I know if the students have understood? How will I know how students have understood? By having the assessment at the end of the program, whichever you have formulated. So when we are talking about designing a course, then Bloom gives us a lot of ideas regarding the program. And if we want to design a program, we will be able to see and comprehend that the student has to first understand a concept before he can remember it. He has to be able to understand it first before he can apply it. He has to be able to analyze it first before he can evaluate it, and all these are required before he or she can create anything new. So we need to understand that our uh, program that we are planning to design, or the course that we are planning to design, would have all these components, some in less quantity, some in more quantity, depending upon whom the course is meant for. And it is important also for us to remember, to keep in mind, that every single student gets something out of that course. So if the student is at a lower level of cognitive functioning, then that student would be able to comprehend or be a part of the program only if there is information related to that first, before we move to the higher levels. And every student can be taken to a higher level if we think that the student is only at remembering and understanding, and we make a idea about the student's IQ, then we would not be being fair to that student, because every student can develop his or her cognitive ability if the teachers are giving enough support, enough scaffolding, and enough motivation for the student to move forward. So a lot about the engagement of the students in the class depends upon the teacher, and how the teacher is disseminating that particular information to the students, and how much are the students able to understand and absorb the information that being shared in the class. So these are the various references that you can look at. And also some YouTube videos will also give you a lot of idea about what exactly Bloom's taxonomy is. With that, I would like to say thank you. And I hope you have been able to get something from this session that I have had with you. Thank you.